The gym echoed with the thud of boots, clanking weights, and the easy confidence of soldiers who believed they'd seen everything war could offer. She stood quietly near the back, adjusting the straps of her vest, her movements precise and without wasted motion. The scars across her chest peeked faintly from the edge of her undershirt, faint enough to ignore, clear enough to mock. And someone finally did. A loud voice cut through the noise, dripping with arrogance. "Hey, what happened to you? Lose a fight with your own rifle?" Laughter exploded around him, bouncing off steel walls, feeding his ego. She didn't react, no glare, no flinch, not even a breath out of rhythm. She simply continued her task, calm as a still lake. That calmness unsettled a few of the older soldiers watching. There was something familiar in her stillness, something you don't see in rookies or average fighters, something carved only into those who've walked through real hell and somehow returned. But the younger ones missed it. They only saw scars and silence. And they mistook both for weakness. Hours earlier, before the insult, she had arrived at the base with a duffel bag so worn it looked older than half the recruits. She didn't wear medals. She didn't carry rank on her sleeves. She blended into the background so effortlessly that most assumed she was support staff, maybe a clerk rotated into training to fill a gap. Yet her steps were measured, her breathing quiet, her eyes scanning everything without moving her head. The kind of awareness only built from years of surviving situations meant to kill you. Rumors had circulated for months about a soldier whose name once appeared on the official casualty list, a name that was later quietly removed with no explanation. Some said she died in an ambush. Others said she sacrificed herself to save a convoy. A few whispered she clawed her way out of a grave the battlefield dug for her. But no one knew for sure, because her file was sealed tighter than the base armory. And now here she was, standing in a gym full of people who had no idea they were training beside someone the military itself had once buried. She wasn't there to boast. She wasn't there to correct their assumptions. She was simply there to finish what she started years ago. And all it took was one insult, one careless moment to ignite the truths she never planned to reveal. The gym felt alive with noise, metal clanging, boots shuffling, instructors shouting corrections. In the middle of it all, she stood like a quiet shadow, her movements steady, controlled, almost graceful. She adjusted the strap of her vest, exposing a faint line of scars that ran across her chest, scars that looked old, brutal, and earned. Most soldiers didn't notice, but one did. And he couldn't help himself. "Damn," he laughed loudly, nudging his friends. "Did you let a grenade give you a hug or what?" The laughter spread like a spark through dry grass. Soldiers doubled over, a few slapped their knees. Even those who didn't laugh didn't stop it, they just watched. But she didn't react. Not a twitch, not a glare. The silence she held felt heavier than any punch she could have thrown. The older sergeant in the corner stiffened. He recognized something in her eyes, something deadly and familiar. She set down her duffel bag with the same calmness she had shown since she arrived. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was restraint. And the louder the soldier laughed, the more the room began to sense that the joke he thought was harmless was about to awaken a truth no one in that gym was prepared to face. The insult faded into awkward chuckles as she slowly reached for the zipper of her jacket. Some of the soldiers smirked, expecting a confrontation. Others leaned forward, curious to see if she would finally break her silence. But when the zipper came down, the room shifted from amusement to shock so quickly it felt like the air itself paused. Inside her jacket, sewn into a hidden pocket, rested a single metal small, dull from age, wrapped in a piece of medical gauze as if it were a wound she kept close. A young recruit whispered first, "No, no way." The soldiers closest to her stepped back, their eyes widening as they recognized the unmistakable insignia. The Medal of Final Valor, a medal given not to heroes who lived, but to those who died, those who sacrificed everything and didn't return. Every soldier in that room had seen the photos, heard the stories, memorized the names etched on walls. But this was impossible. The medal was only awarded after death. And she was standing right in front of them, breathing, silent, watching them freeze in horror. For the first time, the man who insulted her looked into her eyes and felt the truth. He had mocked someone the military had once buried. The story spread through the base like wildfire, whispered from soldier to soldier. But the full truth was far worse and far greater than any rumor. Years ago, she had been part of a covert recon team sent into terrain so hostile it was marked on maps only with a single word: red. Their mission was simple: locate a missing convoy. But what awaited them was an ambush designed to wipe out every living soul. The first explosion tore through the team before they even realized they were surrounded. Smoke, fire, screaming radios, she remembered it all in flashes. She pulled 3 teammates to cover, fought until her ammo ran dry, and used her own body to shield a wounded soldier from shrapnel. When the rescue team arrived days later, they found only burned ground, shattered gear, and blood. No bodies, no survivors. Command assumed the worst. Her name was placed on the casualty list. A ceremony was held. Folded flag was given to her family. But the truth was more brutal. She wasn't dead. She was crawling, broken bones, torn flesh, barely conscious, dragging herself mile by mile until she finally reached the extraction point. She had died on paper, but she hadn't died inside. When she finally reached the extraction zone, dehydrated, blooded, and barely alive, the medics froze in disbelief. They had been told no one survived. They had been ordered to stop searching. Yet there she was, a ghost crawling back into the world. She spent months in a military hospital, drifting in and out of surgeries and silence. The doctors said she wasn't supposed to live. The administration didn't know how to classify her. The military buried her with honor, yet she was still breathing. Her return caused complications. Files needed rewriting, reports needed redrafting. Entire narratives had to be corrected, but the truth was simpler for her. She didn't care about recognition or corrections. The scars across her chest were reminders of the day she refused to die. When she recovered enough to walk, she asked for one thing: to return to training others. But command couldn't place her in leadership. The politics were too messy, the paperwork too complicated. And so she accepted the background roles: low rank, low visibility, low attention. She didn't need applause, she needed purpose. And if purpose meant staying silent while people believed she was ordinary, she accepted that, until today, until the insult broke the silence. Back in the gym, the tension was thick enough to choke on. The man who had mocked her stood frozen, his throat tightening as the weight of his mistake settled in. She didn't yell, she didn't shame him. She simply re-zipped her jacket, as if tucking away a piece of her soul once more. "Scars," she said quietly, her voice steady and sharp, "aren't marks of failure. They're proof I refused to stay dead." The gym fell silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the loudspeakers seemed to hush. She picked up her duffel bag and walked toward the exit, her steps heavy with memory but light with the strength of someone who had already survived more than any of them ever would. Soldiers stepped aside instinctively, as if making way for a ghost or a legend. Word spread through the base in minutes. The woman with the scars was the soldier who came back from the dead. She trained in silence because she didn't need glory. She carried a medal meant for the fallen because she had earned it with blood, pain, and an unbroken will. And as she disappeared down the hallway, every soldier in that gym carried a new understanding. Heroes don't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes, they walk quietly among the living, reminding them what survival truly costs. The gym eventually returned to its usual rhythm, but something fundamental had shifted in the air, an unspoken weight that settled on every soldier present. No one laughed anymore. No one bragged. No one threw casual comments across the room like they used to. They all felt it, the presence of someone who had crossed the line between life and death and somehow walked back. As she left the building, the door closing softly behind her, the silence she carried stayed behind like a heavy echo, reminding them how little they truly understood about sacrifice. The man who mocked her stood staring at the floor, no trace of arrogance left, only shame and the realization of how small his words had been compared to the battles she had survived. Around the base, whispers spread, not as gossip but as reverence. Soldiers sat a little straighter, recruits trained with a new seriousness. Even the instructors spoke her name with a cautious respect, as if mentioning a spirit that had endured more than mortal limits. She never asked them to understand, she never asked them to honor her. All she wanted was to serve quietly, to train in the shadows, to keep moving forward. Yet now, after a single moment of truth, her story had done more than silence a room. It had reminded every soldier why scars are sacred, why survival is its own form of heroism, and why the greatest warriors are often the ones who carry their legends in silence.